It's not everyone needs to go post their whole life online, but it is that you're creative, you have a story to tell, and at least telling that within your family or within your community or within what you consider your tribe or your region or your area is going to impact everyone around you, because there's so much that the people can learn from you. And so I think just really leaning into that and going, I am creative, I am a creator, and I love to create content and write.
Hey, I'm Karina.
And I'm Taylor.
And this is Direct, a podcast we created to showcase the creativity and hard work of go-to-market teams everywhere.
We're here to share the stories and experiences of the hardworking, passionate individuals who make up go-to-market teams, the ones who truly make the magic happen.
Taylor and I have been fortunate enough to work side by side on some incredible projects together, and now we want to put a spotlight on the unsung heroes behind some of the best go-to-market campaigns out there.
In each episode, you'll hear from individual contributors who have gone above and beyond to make a difference. They'll share their challenges, victories, and the lessons they've learned along the way, all to help you unlock the next step in your career. Get ready to be inspired, learn something new, maybe even share a laugh or two.
Welcome to Direct. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Direct with myself, Karina Owens, and my co-host, Taylor Young.
Hello, hello.
I am excited to announce our guest today, Emily Mireault. She runs brand and marketing at Nectar, which is a recognition and rewards platform for organizations. Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're so thrilled for you to be here. We always start off the show with one question, and we're going to circle back to it at the end of it. Before we highlight your extreme accomplishments, we just want to ask you one question. And that question is, if you had a magic wand and could change anything about your current job, responsibilities, or even just things in your life, what would you change?
Oh, wow. What would I change? Honestly, what's top of mind right now is I would have the strongest Wi-Fi speed of all time, and I'd be able to upload like hundreds of hours of videos, and I'd have unlimited phone storage. I live on a farm, so I've got a bit limited options and processing power, I would say.
Well, Taylor, I know you can certainly relate to that.
Absolutely. So the funny thing here is Emily and I are both farmers / marketers. And so we both live on farms, and internet, 100% agree with you. Unlimited Wi-Fi speed at the top of my list.
Well, Emily, we will certainly keep that in mind to revisit. But let's get into it, Emily. Taylor and I reached out to you because we are so impressed with the following you have produced for yourself on LinkedIn. You come across as so genuine and authentic, and it really humanized your brand. I'm wondering, what was your thought process when you went into this, when you started sharing on LinkedIn and being vulnerable and consistently posting, but always in a very vulnerable and authentic way that didn't feel forced by the company, right? It felt like it was really Emily. Yeah, it really did also embody the values of the company. Can you talk to me a little bit about like the process of that? Like, how did that come to be? And maybe what were some of the fears or challenges that you faced along the way to get to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the fears and challenges kind of came up front before I got started. And this all started pre-Nectar with the vulnerability and the fears. So before I started posting, I was really in my head, what is my employer going to think? What are my friends going to think? What are my family members going to think? And that was a really hard battle to wrestle with. But then I started to see other people have success. And I'm like, okay, I love pictures. I love telling stories. I love connecting with people. I love social media. Like, what am I waiting for? Why would I not take advantage of this opportunity? And then I was let go or laid off from a previous role. And I'm sitting there like, I have no job. Like, I can put anything on the line. I don't have an employer telling me what to do. I don't have people to impress. Like, I truly need my next role. And so that's when I got vulnerable. I started talking through the job search. I was like, this morning started with kayaking with my dad, and now I'm going to be applying to jobs. And if you know anyone, please help me, just being really vulnerable. And through that process, Nectar found me. I was connected to a few people who are active on LinkedIn, and they were like, we need a marketer. And I was like, I need a job. And it ended up working out really nicely. But I just carried that vulnerability right into the role and then started to identify, okay, I'm in a job now. How do I balance Emily and my personal brand and my farm life and kind of what brings me joy with, hey, I'm a marketer. I'm a professional. Here are the things I'm learning. Here are the things I want to share. Here's how I want to convey the message of what my company offers, because it's not boring. It's not lame. It's pretty cool to have, recognition software. It's a lot more fun to talk about than some of the past roles I've been in. So first it was the vulnerability, and then it was the balancing me with the job that I have.
I think that's super inspiring because I'm still so many people come to me and Taylor and ask like, how do you even get started with putting content out on LinkedIn? And I love how you kind of dispelled it. Like, who doesn't use some form of social media, right? Like the fear is the platform itself and how are we going to be perceived in a way that, I mean, it is a job market platform. It is a career, primarily B2B driven platform. And there's older expectations about how you're supposed to show up on it. And I love that your vulnerability, right? Like people can sense that. Like they can smell it from a mile away. Something that's just BS, something that's not authentic. The vulnerability is what actually got you the job, is that you showed up as your whole self on a platform that is, pre-pandemic seen in a completely different way. And Nectar found you and honored you for your whole self. I think that is becoming less rare, but certainly I actually remember your kayaking story, which is funny that you mentioned it. And I connected to it because it's you're being human. And in a world where even at work, we're just constantly on Zoom after Zoom calls. And like, there's no, like, you're losing so much of the human element of things. A picture, a story, you're being a storyteller, you're sharing your personal lived experience. Like that actually landed you a job. That is a great playbook for so many people out there right now. Just show up and be your authentic self. You're living proof of that. I think that's beautiful.
So with all of that being in consideration, how did you take that authenticity, that realness that you brought while you had the freedom to do it while you were in the job market search and bring that into Nectar and how you do your business and work with your teams at Nectar?
Yeah, I realized that when I was looking back on analytics and different posts that really performed, it was like me holding a box of cookies at the state fair and showing how this company makes $5 million in 12 days, and me sharing the new job and sharing these like big announcements or fun things, or me smiling really big. And I'm like, wait, duh, people connect to people. And so I'm sitting there thinking about our company page and our company's brand, and we think of demand creation and demand capture. And we have a part of our team that's capturing demand with our blog and some of those other things, but I'm creating demand, or at least that's what I'm in charge of. And I'm like, how do I go get people who aren't interested become interested? And I'm like, maybe I'll just be a human and see how that goes. And so rather than putting up these corporate blinders of like, this is how I need to talk on my company page, everything needs to be perfectly branded and it needs to run through this department and get all these checks and balances. We're a startup. We're small. We're scrappy. We have the ability to say, Emily, run with it. So rather than being like corporate Nectar face, I was like, I'm going to be Emily and just post from Nectar's account and just be Emily, talk about employee recognition, talk about the teammates we have and how awesome they are, tell a story, share a review. And sure, it doesn't get the level of engagement as somebody's actual personal brand, but it's building something that's creating the snowball effect that HR people are interested in, that marketing people are interested in, because everyone can resonate with the message of building better culture, which is nice. It gives me an advantage that our company produces something that every company can use. We don't have to have you don't have to be a certain type of company. Everyone can use employee recognition. So that's kind of how I approached it. I was like, I'm just going to be human, talk how I talk, post how the LinkedIn algorithm likes, which is, plenty of spacing and not too frequently, but definitely frequently enough where people are seeing your name and seeing your presence. And then you can actually talk as a human, as a brand. So, like, Nectar can comment on Taylor's post and add insight. And that gets people like, well, wow, this company just added to this thought leader's post. And I want to hear more about what they have to say or their POV on different things. And so that's how we've kind of infiltrated the market as a really small company.
You make a really fantastic point there, and a distinction that you had kind of a little bit more freedom to do this at a scrappier, smaller company, less red tape, less people super concerned about the brand and making it very precious, which is what you see in larger companies. What advice would you give to someone who's like, I love what Nectar's doing. I am so into this humanization of the brand on LinkedIn, but having trouble getting that across to their teams at a larger organization?
Yeah, I think you need to appeal to the people you work with. If they're really process oriented and they want something to be really scheduled and done a certain way, there's actually still a way to do that and be totally human. That's what I did at the start. I went, okay, on Thursdays, I'm going to do a video post. On Wednesday, I'm going to highlight a blog post. And so I created the structure to give people who love structure that peace of mind. But then within the structure, I gave myself the creative freedom to be a human. So I think you can still speak to those needs while letting yourself be creative, expressive, and human.
I mean, you gave some just amazing tips on things that are such missed opportunities. Like, I think about forums, for example, on like Reddit, if you will. Like, I constantly see my company or other companies having product related questions on forums. And I'm like, hello, interact and engage. And to your point too, like, hello, Nectar, this is your target audience. Emily can interact with the post. Other people at Nectar can interact with the posts that are employees, but also Nectar, the brand, can be a human-esque, which it is. It's human-esque Emily in LinkedIn page format, or like LinkedIn company page format, can interact too. And that is just a beautiful, small, tactical tip to take away that me and Taylor are always trying to give to people. Like, just some small wins to prove out, kind of to Taylor's point, that larger strategy of why this might be important. And maybe it's not clear cut and dry on what the ROI is, but I imagine, Emily, that you're a big lead generator for your company. I imagine that you're unaware of even how many people you have brought into sales conversations just because they've been following you. And that's a harder thing to track, right? Like, it's just, you'd have to get it coaxed out of like that. It would a form, like somebody submitting that or saying it on a call recording that, hey, no, I know Nectar because of Emily, but I encourage you to find a way to make sure you are tracking that. Not that your company isn't looking out for you. It sounds like they take great care of you and have great pride in you, but yeah, just great tactical tips right there.
Emily, my understanding is when you initially came into Nectar, were you running their brand social media as well? Is that what you were hired for because of the presence that you had created, or was that something that came in later on?
So the head of marketing who hired me was kind of overseeing it, occasionally posting on it, nothing too intense or strategic around it, just, infiltrating something new that's going on or something we want to highlight. And as I started to work on my personal brand and post every day, there was a point where I was posting twice a day at like very specific times and getting really intense with my own brand. I was like, this is so natural for me. Like, I could crank out, you could call it 5 posts all at once because it's just so top of mind. I'm so used to writing these. Like, I was enjoying it myself. So I was like, if I'm enjoying it this much, I'm probably the best person to put it together for the company. So I just started doing it. I think that kind of happens more at a startup. It wasn't like you're hired to be our social media manager. Like, that's definitely not my role. But when I identified how it leads to the demand creation that I was talking about that I was hired for, that's where it was like, ding, 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 whether it's community, whether it's LinkedIn page, doesn't exactly matter how or what channel you're using. But if you're bringing leads straight to the sales team that are highly interested, engaged, and know what Nectar is, like, you need to keep doing more of that. And so I'm definitely trusted in that aspect, that I wasn't kind of put in a box of your social media manager, get us 20,000 followers. Like, we're not even there, So I just kind of took it over when I found that it's something I really love to do and was good at.
So you took your life really into your own hands, and you didn't, you asked for permission, but you kind of just lay it out for them that this is the framework, and I just bless it and let me run with it.
Yep, I don't run the post by anyone anymore. And I'm going on maternity leave in a few months. So I've started to schedule things out. I'm like, I know what we're posting on July 8th. Like, nobody else does, but I might be having a baby. So,
Oh,
yep.
well, congratulations on that, number one. Number two, that kind of brings me to another point. It's dangerous, I think, for companies to, as they grow, right, to rely solely on one individual to be the advocate, because that advocate could leave for a variety of reasons, like maternity leave. And nobody can infiltrate Emily, not even the AI, right? Like, it can try, but it's not going to be Emily. So have you considered, or has Nectar considered, how can we start to take Emily's playbook and help enable our other employees to start taking their own unique points of view about themselves and present themselves online? Like, is there an employee advocacy around this? Like, considering that you are going to be a little more absent than usual from Nectar because of your beautiful pregnancy opportunity.
No, it's a great question, but I can't even take credit. Sure, I've maybe become more of the face or more visible, or I post more than other people, but it is something that's kind of woven throughout our company. Like, we have a Slack channel that has to do with LinkedIn where we're hyping each other up. We have a challenge within the Nectar platform, which companies can create, walk 10,000 steps and you can claim your challenge. One of our challenges is write a post about company culture. So there are definitely ways where we're already encouraged, incentivized, talking about LinkedIn. Our CEO believes in it, posts on LinkedIn, our head of marketing does. So I'm definitely not the only one. In fact, one of our guys on the sales team the other day, wrote a post about golfers celebrating each other's wins, regardless of how they're playing. It's got 670 likes right now. I was like, you're on fire. You know what I mean? It is not just me. And so the people who are seeing me the most are going to see other pinkish, orangish, reddish backgrounds. That is our company. And it's definitely encouraged throughout the org already. So no leg twisting needing to happen there.
I love the fact that you talked about how you've actually embedded your strategy into your product and made it a challenge and reward system. That is going to be a beautiful testament for other people who are Nectar customers or will be Nectar customers in the future to there's so many use cases you can now tie to, right? It's not just individualized based on quota or whatever. You can also do other reward systems, like the use case of the social media strategy, Emily, that you helped to push forward. So that's, I think, a really awesome takeaway of how to tie in your individual success that helps the company's success, and now is actually helping build out other use cases for other customers within your own product. That's really cool.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, there's one thing we haven't quite touched on yet, and I am just thrilled for us to dive into this. Now, many, if you follow Emily, may know, but Emily is also balancing being a published author. She is selling her book, Easter the Pig. And I am going to let Taylor chime in here because I am by no means I am a lover of animals, but I am by no means a farmer. And Emily and Taylor are both farmers. So Taylor, I'm going to pass it over to you to dive into this dive into this book.
I have so many questions. This farming/marketing could be its own other little podcast because I absolutely adore this subject. As Karina mentioned, I live on a farm. I run a tiny little hobby farm, and I know you do as well, Emily. And I love that you bring that into the business world and let people see that side of you. I want to know what inspired you to write this book about one of your farm animals.
Yes, great question. So I have always wanted donkeys my whole life. And that I thought was my like retirement thing, right? Like work for 40 years, retire, own 2 donkeys, dream accomplished. COVID hit. We bought a house. We have 6 acres. And I'm sitting here looking outside going, I don't need to wait until retirement. I can live my dream right now. And so it didn't start with donkeys, but I'm scrolling through Craigslist one day, which you'll see if you read the book, and I see this pig. And they're like, we're desperate. Like, I work double shifts, 4 days a week. I'm never home. She's like really not in a good place. And I'm like, we need to go get this pig. So we drive 3 hours and we get her on Easter Sunday, hence the name Easter. And it was a whirlwind, an adventure, a lot of things. I didn't even know that pigs go into heat if they're not fixed, kind of like women having periods. I mean, all the things when you get a pig. And we have since learned so many things. But yes, it inspired me to write the first book of what is going to be a series and include all our animals. But right now it's just Easter the pig.
Oh.
And it's been really fun.
I absolutely love that. Wow, what an incredible experience. I love the story about Easter the Pig. I cannot wait to get my own copy of that. Definitely on a must-read list for me. I love that you mentioned donkeys also. I have a donkey. I have 30-ish animals on the farm here. We did almost the same exact thing. We bought a house and it was not a farm. It just had a few acres. And I was like, you know what we need?
Yeah.
Those fainting goats from the YouTube videos. That's absolutely what we need. I actually bought ours I saw these old baby goats on Christmas Day, and I put like a down payment or whatever on them, and they would be ready on Valentine's Day. We didn't even have a barn. I was like, my husband on Christmas, I was like, here, these are going to be here in a couple of months. They need a barn and a pen and a little house. But with that, I'm really curious about where can everybody get your book? Let me know.
It is live on Amazon. Easter the Pig. You can type my name after too if it doesn't come up right away. But yes.
We'll make sure to link it into the show notes too, because yeah, that is just such a sweet story. I almost cried. I love that you saw that it needed help and you rescued it. And I love that you said donkeys too, because my favorite donkey is actually Taylor's donkey. And they are, I think, some of the most underrated pigs too. Like, these animals are smart and like sweet and so intelligent. So I love that you plan to have a series. I think that is super adorable. And what a gift you're giving to your family that you're building, that they're going to have to build down from generation to generation. That is just beautiful.
Absolutely. And I love that you mentioned, like, you don't have to wait. It does seem like a really weird double life that there's this very small group of us chatting about all the time online, but you don't have to wait to live this life. So it's incredible that it's possible now, especially with remote work, and you can live out in these rural communities where you can do this. The only disadvantage being our incredibly slow Wi-Fi signals. Circling all the way back to the beginning of the conversation, I just want to ask if you had anything else to add outside of our miserable Wi-Fi signals. Is there anything else that you would reflect on with what you've done with Nectar, what you've done with your personal and their internal brand, or even writing your book? Anything else that you might add to that magic wand list?
Or anything that you've realized after talking about all that you've done? That maybe this magic wand doesn't even need to be a magic wand. It's already inside of you. Has going through your accomplishments, which we've listed many, right? Many that chances that people don't take. Do you even maybe realize or have a new perspective on your own strength that you already have inside of you that will enable you to get maybe stronger Wi-Fi? Maybe that's all it is, right? But maybe there's more. Has listening and just taking space for talking about all that you've done, has it given you like any source of like, wow, I've got everything I've already need?
Yeah, absolutely, actually, because when you think of social media and you think of influencers or content creators, you have this pretty specific image in mind. here's what they look like, here's how they make money, here's how they spend their free time. And it's just not the case, or at least it doesn't need to be. Somebody in any role, from any background, living anywhere, I have a personal belief that everyone is a creator, because I believe that being a creator means telling stories. And I think that the way we connect to other people is storytelling. And so I had like limiting beliefs, especially during the pandemic, as you're seeing people blow up on TikTok and all these things happen where you're like, I could go viral, but I'm not a content creator. I'm not an influencer, and kind of talking down or giving it a negative connotation versus saying, I am a creator. I am a storyteller. I am going to share my life online in the way that I choose to do so. Sure, I'm doing it on a professional platform and I'm blending things together. It's going to look different for everyone, what that unique combination is. And it's not everyone needs to go post their whole life online, but it is that you're creative, you have a story to tell, and at least telling that within your family or within your community or within what you consider your tribe or your region or your area is going to impact everyone around you, because there's so much that the people can learn from you. And so I think just really leaning into that and going, I am creative, I am a creator, and I love to create content and write. So that's kind of what no magic wand, but other people, if I could wave the magic wand for other people to start believing it themselves, I would.
Well, I really appreciate you using the word limiting beliefs, because that's part of why we are doing this podcast, is we want to remove those limiting beliefs that people have about themselves, that they have to look a certain way or have to achieve a certain thing to get somewhere. And so I'm glad that on your own, you chose to remove those limiting beliefs, and it's clear in your actions. You're not going to let them you're going to keep being mindful about removing more and more limiting beliefs that are likely going to keep coming up. I know they certainly have for me. Like, even though I've crossed the threshold of a limiting belief, I've certainly found another one. So it's a constant journey. And one book recommendation I recommend everybody, and I do for you too, Emily, I think you'd appreciate it. It's called The Power of Onlyness. It's by Nilofer Merchant. We'll put it in the show notes as well. But that book was the book that made me realize too, like, I can just be me, and that's what the world needs of me. And I don't need anybody else to define it for me or take it away from me. And Emily, you have embodied that. You are showcasing your onlyness as much as you feel you want to. And that's beautiful. It doesn't have to be twice a day on LinkedIn, every day a week. It can be whatever the hell you want it to be. And you're empowering and embodying that. So thank you so much, Emily, for joining our show. We so appreciate your perspective, and we are fans and cannot wait to see what you're going to do in the future.
Thank you so much. I'm big fans of both of you, so excited to keep supporting one another.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Direct with Karina and Taylor.
If you enjoyed what you heard in today's episode, please give us a follow, maybe even a 5-star review, wherever you listen to your podcast.
And if you know someone that you'd like to spotlight, if you want to share your own story, visit us at motionagency.io/direct. We'd love to hear from you.